Hey guys, Mr. Avis here. In this video we're going to learn about how to draw physics graphs and the guess method of showing our work. So how do we draw a good physics graph? The graph on the left, what's it even a graph of? It doesn't tell us what it's a graph of, we just have some numbers, some dots, and some lines. On the right, we know what the graph is, and we have our points plotted. We have labels on the axes and a nice straight line. The nice straight line is important because usually we want to know what the slope of that line is. So it's pretty obvious from these two examples that the graph on the right is the better graph. So make sure all yours look like that. Now what constitutes a good graph? Why is that a better graph? So good graphs have tails. What that means is you have to have a title for your graph. You have to tell me what the graph is about. You have to have axes. You need to draw those axes. You can't just have a graph in the middle of your graph paper with no axes. Also, make your graphs as big as possible. It's much easier to see that way. Increments, you need to have numbers on the axis, both axes. Otherwise, how are you going to plot the points? You need to label your axes. You need to tell me what the axes are. Is it time? Is it distance? Is it velocity? Got to tell me what that is, and you need to include the units. And you need to have a straight line. We call it a best fit line. It may not touch all the points, but it goes close to all the points. Sometimes that'll be a curve, but I'll let you know when that is. Typically it's just going to be a straight line. Use a ruler to draw it. You need that because most of the time in physics we care about the slope of the graph. So don't play connect the dots with your graphs or you're not going to be able to find the slope of the graph. Now another important thing in this class is you need to show your work. Just finding the answer is not good enough. You need to show explicitly how you got that answer. And a good way to do that is the guess method. So the guess method is to help you remember what all you need to show. So the G stands for givens. You need to read through a problem and write down what each given is. What do we know from the problem? Do we know the velocity? Do we know the time? Do we know the distance? Write all that stuff down. Sometimes there's going to be some variables that we know, but that we're not told, such as gravity. Gravity always has the same acceleration, so you're just going to know what that is, and you're going to know you need to include that. You also need to write down your unknowns. What are you looking for? Am I looking for force? I need to write down that I'm looking for force. Your equation, you have to write what equation you want to use before you use it. Don't put numbers in here, just write the equation down. Then, under solve, that's when you need to go through and rearrange your equation and solve for your unknown. We've talked about how to rearrange equations. You need to solve for your unknown before you plug numbers in. And then you can plug numbers in and find your solution. Plug the numbers in, punch it all into your calculator, and get your answer. Now make sure you put units with your answer. Don't just give me a number. A number's not going to be good enough. Make sure you include the units. So here's an example of how we can do this. So we have a simple problem. How long does it take a car driving 20 meters per second to go 1,000 meters? So we write guess along the left side of our page. And for our givens, we know the velocity is 20 meters per second. And we know that our delta S, which we'll learn is displacement, is 1,000 meters. You need to do all of these parts because everything's going to be worth points. This might be worth 1 point, just writing those down. Your unknowns, we're looking for time. How long does it take? So write time equals question mark. That'd be worth a point also. What equation are we going to use? Well, we haven't learned the equation yet, but we would learn this is the equation we're going to use. V equals delta S over T. So we write it down. For solve, we need to solve for time. Time is what we're looking for. That's our unknown. So we need to rearrange this equation to solve for time. You have to do this. And then now we can plug in our givens and get our answer, which here ends up being 500 seconds. Make sure you put the units or else it doesn't mean anything. Make sure you do this on every problem and you'll get the maximum points available. So here's a little cartoon that shows how important it is to show your work. If you did a problem like this, you wouldn't get many points. So make sure you draw good graphs, make sure you use the guess method to show your work, and you should be able to get a good grade in this class. See you next time.